Today we're going to be delving deep into medical ventilators, and especially the importance of them during COVID and everything in between. All right, good morning. I'm sitting here with Louis Heyne, and he's currently the technical manager for the Western Cape with SSEM. It's lovely to have you here. And this is our very first podcast. So I'd just like to, thank you for being here with us this morning. So, Louis, give us a little background of who you are and, what kind of experience you have and what's your background?
Morning. Thank you for having me. I've been in the medical industry since after school. Started studying clinical engineering in the military. I then worked at one military hospital, moved down to Cape Town, worked at Tumel, and then into the private sector. So I've been working on medical equipment since then. And I've been with SSEM Matembu now for the last 11 years. And I've been technical manager in the Western Cape for the last 5 years.
Amazing. So, what is SSEM actually? What industry does it serve? Or, if you could explain a bit.
So SSEM Matembu Medical is a medical company. We import medical equipment and distribute in South Africa, and then we service and maintain it in hospitals.
Okay, cool. So medical equipment, are we talking about endoscopes? Are we talking about ultrasounds? Are we talking about those kinds of things, or is it something else?
Yeah, so the biggest thing I would say is Hamilton ventilators, monitors, a lot of ECG machines, pulmonology equipment, a lot of consumables for theatre. We also create special theatre packs for theatre. And ultrasound machines, ventilators, high flow devices.
Okay, cool. So if there's a niche in that's quite a wide range of equipment, right? Is there anything that you sort of have more experience with, or sort of an area that's more related to your background, or are you
I would say ventilation monitoring. I do pulmonology and cardiology equipment also. So I would say those are the biggest ones, yeah.
Okay, cool. So ventilation. When I think about ventilation, I'm thinking about, maybe the little hole in the bathroom, or like the air conditioner, or what?
Just don't mention COVID.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
okay. So what kind of ventilation systems are we talking about?
So this is for patient ventilation. When you can't breathe for yourself, it's a mechanical ventilation that breathes for you.
All right. Okay. So are we talking about? I think obviously we sort of still in the COVID period, but I remember seeing some images, in the newspaper or on news of these devices being shoved down patients' throats, and they sort of act as a lung or something. Is that sort of the kind of equipment that you're talking about?
Yeah. Okay, it's an ET tube. It doesn't really get shoved down your throat. They do lube it a little bit and insert it. But the machine forces air into your lungs and exhales.
Okay, so what's the big deal with I mean, what's the big deal, but when would patients need this kind of device?
So there's a lot of diseases that calls for ventilation. It's basically when your muscles when your diaphragm can't contract anymore naturally or normally, you need a ventilation to ventilate for you. Or when you under anesthetics, anesthetized, you can't, muscle relaxant, you can't breathe anymore. You need a machine to manually do it for you.
So that means that you guys must have been super busy during COVID, during the early stages of COVID, or during the early period of COVID.
Yeah, beginning of COVID, or I won't say the beginning. Lockdown happened, and everybody started ordering ventilators. Obviously, we weren't the first country that went into lockdown or that needed ventilators. So we did wait, I would say 3-4 weeks before we got our first batch in. Our ventilators comes from Switzerland. It's a Hamilton make. And we literally got in, I think the first batch we got in was like 150, landed on a Saturday in Johannesburg. Johannesburg divided it up into the initial orders that we got. It was shipped out to all the branches the Sunday. We received it Monday morning, did the testing, did the setup, and Monday afternoon, the first batch was literally delivered at the hospitals. There was some hospitals that, as it was delivered, they literally unpacked it and pushed it into ICU.
Wow.
So that, beginning of lockdown was crazy. I think the only good part about lockdown was driving around. You could literally get from any hospital in 15 minutes. So.
Of course, because you had the special permit to drive.
Yes, and there was no traffic.
Exactly.
It made it so much easier.
So, I mean, there must have been a point where the ventilators just ran out. So what happened at that time?
We were doing even monitors and ventilators that we had in the workshop that was waiting for order numbers or parts. It was literally, we'll get the order number, get it fixed, literally take it out, and it gets put onto a patient immediately. It was on a daily basis. There wasn't a hospital that didn't phone asking for a ventilator. It was crazy. It was, you get to a time that you can't do anything anymore. We every loan unit, every ventilator was out at hospitals. It was just.
And what in your technical experience, what was the what part was prone to failure the most in these devices?
I won't say device failures. In the beginning, what we did have was obviously with normal ventilation, the flow is much lower. With COVID, they discovered that you need really high flows. So the oxygen that was getting drawn out of the wall was a lot higher than normal. So the inlet filters on the ventilators got blocked.
I see.
Because they went up to 60, 70, 80 liters per minute. And the filters got blocked. That was quite a big thing. It was something new to us. We've never had alarms like that. So
wow.
And we were literally taking ventilators off patients, bagging them, changing filters, and putting it back onto patients again.
And just to put that in context, right? You said, was it 16 liters?
60. 60. Yeah.
And is that per hour?
Liters flow per minute.
Liters flow per minute. So
yes.
what is the normal rate for that kind of device on a non-COVID patient?
Well, for you and me, an average breath will be about 500 milliliters per breath. So this is a constant flow of 60, 70 liters per minute.
Wow. So that is an order of magnitude higher.
Yeah, that was why the whole world was basically oxygen shortage or running out of oxygen because the demand was so much bigger.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting. So I believe, I mean, I saw an article or something on social media, or I don't know where it was, but in parts of the world, it was very difficult to import these devices into the country. Or there was obviously a global shortage.
Yeah.
And there were issues with logistics, ships being sort of not allowed to enter, docking and all that kind of stuff. So there was a complete slowdown and a shutdown at certain points.
Yeah, there was, yeah.
Right. So apparently there was a country that had an initiative to try and create their own ventilator. I guess there were a few countries that tried to create locally manufactured ventilators to sort of keep up with the need, right?
Yeah, I think it was Italy. When Italy was so bad, they were literally putting 2-3 patients on one ventilator. Hamilton quickly released a paper saying that you cannot do it. Not one person is the same as the other. You can't use the same ventilator and the same parameters.
Yeah.
For 2 or even 3 people. I think it was also them that started making these home type ventilators.
Yeah.
And yeah, that started in South Africa also. And we had so many calls of people wanting to come see what a ventilator looks like and how it works, that then started creating their own ventilators.
Interesting. So are you basically saying that these guys were trying to contribute to the situation, or they might have seen a gap?
I think they saw a gap, and they maybe had the background of a mechanical side, and they thought they could do it. But yeah, none of them materialized.
So did you ever were you ever in a position to test them, like to see what they were like? Did any of these guys bring one over? Or
yeah, we actually had 2. One guy brought it into the office and we played with it. The test equipment we use measures the flow and the breath rate of how when the ventilator ventilates. But that's on a normal ventilator. On this ventilator, we couldn't even pick up a flow, couldn't pick up breath rate, because it wasn't designed with the right specifications.
So the test equipment, it obviously, you have to have certain standards that the test equipment would have to test a piece of equipment with those standards set.
Yeah, it's not a normal flow meter or a normal pressure gauge or anything. It's specifically to test ventilators.
And a specific kind of ventilator, obviously.
No, most of the ventilators are the same. Or most human ventilators, I would say.
Yes.
Is the same. So it picks up all the parameters.
Okay. I think I saw there was, I don't know if it was in Italy or not, where they released an open source design for a ventilator.
Yeah.
For other countries to try and create something. I don't know. I feel like there's some good intentions there, and it's also a good thing to sort of move towards, creating, locally made stuff that sort of can provide the same kind of function at a lower price. However, I guess if you're not a specialist in the field, you wouldn't actually realize how many parameters, how many standards would have to be met.
And the red tape that goes with it.
Exactly. So getting onto that, right? You said that a few companies in South Africa, or a few individuals, tried to come up with their own designs. You said that nothing really materialized. Can we sort of delve deeper into that, sort of the reasons why, and the possibly like the red tape surrounding the industry?
I think also with the whole ventilation thing, I think I think most of the stuff happened in Italy, and they started with high flow devices. So it's not a ventilation. It's not a ventilator. It's just high flow being delivered to the patient. So I think then the whole ventilator thing wasn't such a big issue anymore. With manufacturing in South Africa, I know of a few companies that has tried to manufacture stuff. They did well in South Africa. They couldn't export it just because they didn't have FDA or CE marking on it.
Yeah. Sorry, and on that, sorry to cut you, but what is FDA and what is CE?
It's just international standards. FDA is a American standard. That equipment must meet to be approved for human use.
Okay.
Obviously, it's an American standard, so you're paying in dollars. So
okay.
yeah, immediately the cost goes up. In South Africa, it needs to be approved by the SABS, which is our standard. But also, it's not a cheap exercise. So,
and does it take a period of time? Is it an instant thing where you send your...
No, it's nothing instant. It's our government, so nothing is quick.
So, like, how long do you think it would take?
No, I don't think I can put a time on it.
All right. Obviously, each piece of equipment would have a different time.
Individual, yeah.
Right. So it's really like it's pretty hardcore certification, technical, and
even the equipment we bring into South Africa, we need to apply for a radiation license, radiation control license on the equipment. It needs to be approved by the SAPRA. So, yeah, it's not a quick thing that you can just bring in and
in a matter of 2 months or a month or no.
You can buy stuff quick on eBay and get it in when, yeah.
Interesting. And I think, when you brought up the topic of ventilation systems, right? You also said monitoring systems. Now, what is a ventilation monitoring system in this context? Okay,
no. So the ventilator will monitor your flows and your pressures, parameters like that. So that's related to your breath, to your lungs. Whereas a patient monitor will look at your ECG, your SpO2, your NIBP. So the rest of the patient parameters. That's basically keeping you alive.
Okay. So obviously, right, the monitoring device for the patient is obviously crucial because obviously you'd be able to tell whether the patient is stable, whether they need attention, whether they're getting better, whatever. Were there any was there a shortage of that during the peak of COVID?
Yeah, there was definitely a shortage of that also. A big thing with COVID, because there was so many temporary wards that they were moving patients into whatever space they had. Nothing was mounted like in a normal ICU. The monitors mounted against the wall. In these temporary wards, everything was basically standing on the bedside cupboard, wherever they could put the monitor. So they were dropping equipment. Monitors was falling off bed stands. So we had a lot of that also.
I'd assume that would affect the calibration of the device. Do these devices require calibration at all?
Yeah. So they first, if it wasn't a COVID ward, obviously they cleaned it before it came out.
Yeah.
We got it. We cleaned it again, repaired it. And then you need to do a full calibration check on the equipment before it goes out again.
All right. Was there any move or was there any sort of shift towards like mobile versions of the devices? Do they exist, or are they meant to be wall mounted only?
You do get, but obviously the trolleys we also import. It also comes from Neon Coden. So yeah, it's not a trolley that you can go to a hardware shop and just go buy.
Yes.
So, yeah, it was just the
And
demand
I
was.
think even at that time there was a shortage on steel, and so there's also like pressure on other industries for sort of manufacturing.
Yeah.
So the output was lower, and basically everyone wants the same thing. So
Well, in the beginning of lockdown, when most of the shops was closed, you couldn't even buy glue. You literally, eventually we got papers, and you had to go like into the shop and speak to a manager just to get super glue.
that's
It
interesting.
wasn't something you could buy because it wasn't essential. It didn't fall under essential.
And does South Africa not produce its own superglue? This might
I
be an
don't
opportunity
know.
for someone.
No, I think all the super glue you get, it all comes from China. It's
Interesting. Okay, so I guess COVID really sort of revealed some vulnerabilities that we have.
definitely, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting times. Driving around was actually a pleasure. I mean, you could get anywhere. I remember the one night I was called out to hospital on a Friday night, just after 9, I got called out. I can't remember. I think it was with the second lockdown. And I was thinking it's going to take me 5 minutes to the hospital because there's no traffic and everything. And I got onto the R300 and it looked like a normal day.
Oh,
With all the traffic. Okay, the hospital was in Mitchell's Plain, but I drove and it looked like a normal day. And there was no police, no speed cops, no nothing. And it's curfew. I think curfew that time was, I think it was 9 o'clock, was it?
yeah, I think so.
And it was a normal day. I couldn't believe it.
Hey, man. Yeah, that was a very interesting time. I don't know if you watch any movies. I mean, obviously you do, but there's a series called The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And at one point, I remember a time driving through Sea Point, and I think it was after like a thunderstorm or something. There was heavy winds.
Mm.
There were things laying all over the street, and I was literally the only car on the road, waiting and looking around for zombies or something. But it was mad. But the zombies in this case were actually the police cops. The cops,
It was, yeah.
So they'd ask for your papers or whatever, and if you're lucky, you wouldn't have to stop for too long, and then they let you go through. But it was really, really strange.
I remember the one on the N1 just outside Okavango. They had the military there. And it doesn't matter if you were on your way to a hospital or wherever, but you were waiting at least half an hour, 45 minutes. And they looked at everything. It was like, we had papers saying that you're allowed to go, but that wasn't good enough.
And the papers also changed. They kept on being updated.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so I showed this guy, this police officer or traffic cop, my paper, and he's like, "This is the old paper."
Yeah, I think the first one had to be a color copy and it had to be laminated or something.
Yeah.
And by the end, it was just a normal photocopy. It didn't matter what it looked like. They didn't even look at it.
Yeah. No, so I mean, I'm still really, really amazed, that we've gone through this period and we've seen so many different things happening that we wouldn't have normally seen.
Yes,
and I feel like a lot of people have been exposed to the medical industry or the pathology or laboratory industries, whereas before no one was really exposed to it. We didn't really know like what a ventilator was, what a PCR test was, what any of these things were. And it sort of just, this period really shone light on that industry, which is really interesting. I mean, I don't know, were your family and friends more interested in what you did?
Yeah, it
during
was
this time.
I mean, the first time I went into a COVID ward and you get dressed and everything, obviously I had to take a picture of it and send it to everybody. And everybody's like, "What are you doing in a COVID ward? Why are you working in there?" It was, But even for us, the first time you went into a COVID ward, it was a scary thing. It was a disease that nobody knew anything about. We had to put masks on and just go work in there. I mean, we still had a job to do. The first couple of times you literally walked out there, cleaned everything, went home, showered, threw all your clothes in the washing machine. And later on it was just routine. You literally walked out of there and it was just another day. It was.
I think at the beginning, I don't know. I guess the specialists or the people in the know didn't really know exactly how this disease transmitted or this virus transmitted, and it was basically do everything.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, I remember being almost fearful of going to a supermarket.
Yeah.
Right.
I think everybody was.
Right. And we saw what was happening on the news in the US, how people were fighting each other with toilet paper and all of this craziness. And I was really worried that this kind of thing would spread to South Africa. This, toilet paper.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I remember.
I think we had a Neuro Congress in Somerset West. The weekend before lockdown. So we literally had that weekend people from all over the world. The Sunday morning, Durbanville Mediclinic mentioned they've got the first COVID patient. And we had all these international people, and we're like, are we okay? Yeah, we still had the Congress, and I think the next Sunday, was it Sunday that we went into the lockdown?
It's all a blur to me.
Yeah, it's a blur now. So that was quite scary.
Also, no, I remember, I think in South Africa, it was Johannesburg first, and you're like, oh shit. It's Johannesburg, but Cape Town's safe.
Yeah.
Everything's fine here. Then we saw the numbers climbing in Johannesburg. And then there was an announcement, I guess, the first case of COVID in Cape Town.
Yeah.
And we're like,
now it's home.
Now it's home. So, I went to the supermarket, picked up some stuff. And when I got home, I washed the packets, the whole 9 yards, and I was I guess we were all just freaking out.
Yeah.
Then opening up packets during COVID in the initial stages in the beginning was like, I don't want to get my hands dirty.
Yes,
I should wash my hands and all this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Hand sanitizer and everything.
Yeah. So getting back to sort of the more technical side of things, with these ventilators and these other, medical equipment, this specialized equipment, I can imagine, from my own experience, we had some instruments that started to malfunction because of whatever it was, right? Obviously, you need to rely on the technical support.
Yeah.
And I found out after speaking with one of the engineers that came out that they were under a lot of pressure, as you mentioned earlier, because all of a sudden in an industry that is quite niche, quite small, things are usually very regular. Obviously, your hospitals, your laboratories, you have your scheduled checkups, scheduled maintenances, right? But in a period such as this, where all of a sudden there's a lot more equipment out in the field, that obviously statistically there'd be more requests coming through to the technical department, right?
Yeah, for servicing and everything, yeah.
Exactly, and obviously it would have an effect on your stock, right? It would have an effect on your personnel, because obviously you can shed light on this, like how big is the technical team for SSEM that supports the equipment in Cape Town, in the Western Cape?
Western Cape, we're 4 technicians. Normally, it's more than enough.
Yes.
But obviously, the quantities with lockdown that came in was big quantities. There was a lot of weekends that we worked, a lot of evenings. You normally get a sale of maybe, let's say, 10, 15, maybe 20 monitors.
Yes.
That will come out for hospital. The government was placing huge orders. So it's not just 10 monitors that must quickly come into technical, just be checked. And when it goes out, it was 50, it was 60, it was 70 at a time. So, it came in and we all jumped in, and one was unboxing it, one was testing it, one was putting batteries in. Everybody had something to do.
Wow.
It opens up your eyes. It was awakening. It was different.
I mean, as a manager, obviously you have to deal with the staff. So we're thinking about leave days. Staff wants to take off.
What's leave? There was no leave.
Scheduled working hours and all this kind of stuff. And obviously a team of 4 that has to be the saviors of so many institutes and facilities throughout the Western Cape. How did you deal with your staff? How did you motivate them?
I think none of us had a problem. We all just, it had to be done. We just did it. If it was a Friday afternoon that something was quiet, if you had a gap, you went home. It was, it was, we had a job to do. It was, I don't think anybody actually thought about it. I think the 1st December came and like 3 of them went off for holiday. You could really feel you were tired. I took my leave only, I think, the next January. And I just got to a stage that I couldn't anymore. You start working on a Monday, by Tuesday you're tired already. And you're like,
yes.
When last did I have leave? What is leave? It was...
Now, of course, in this sector, literally people are relying on you to, literally to provide that helping hand in surviving in a situation. And I think oftentimes engineers, technicians are sort of removed from that human aspect.
They're in the background. They're just there. They're like machines. They just work.
But I feel like during this time, we got to see more. I feel like more interaction.
Yeah. It did happen more. It was literally on a daily basis. The hospital will phone you and said, like, your monitor's broken. We want another monitor. But you didn't tell us the monitor's broken, but you just want another one. Every hospital wants a monitor. We had like no loan equipment at one stage.
Yeah.
It was because everybody just wanted. The same with the test equipment. Our test equipment, so the ventilator and the monitor must be serviced annually, and it gets a certificate so that it's legally allowed to be in the hospital. But our test equipment must also be calibrated.
Of course.
Also annually, and it needs to be sent away. Some just to Johannesburg, some need to go overseas to be calibrated. That was an issue with test equipment, just running out of test equipment.
And obviously, I don't know whether it's obvious or not, but what kind of your contingency plan must have changed significantly pre and post COVID.
Yeah. Pre-COVID, you could get away with one patient simulator, one for like a week or 2.
Yeah.
With the amount of monitors and ventilators that came in, it was. If I could have 3 of each, it wouldn't have been enough. It was. But now we're sort of back to normal. Okay.
after we move, I mean, we can move on after this, but there's one story that I'll relate. We had this piece of equipment, right? PCR machine. It was very, very much not really customized to exactly what we needed, but there was only a few of these very specific types of machines that, in fact, from the supplier, we were like the first lab to sort of utilize this thing, right?
In the country.
In the country. So supplying it wasn't an issue, but actually, allowing it to interface with our software was an issue because, a few extra steps of calibration needed to be done, right? And so we were sitting with this machine and everything's okay, but one day it just stops working. And we are busy doing PCR tests, right?
Yeah.
COVID PCR tests. And we have one machine and we've got tons of tests that need to be done. And people are waiting for these results, and we've promised them a turnaround time of whatever it was at that time, whether it was 24 hours or whatever it was. But they're expecting their results, and people are trying to leave the country, airport needs it, all that kind of stuff. So we call through to our supplier and reach out to the technical team and tell them, listen, something's wrong. You got to come down now. It's urgent.
Yeah.
Right. And eventually he comes down and he takes the machine apart. Right. And he's trying to find out what's going on, obviously going through the protocol, the testing protocol to sort of find out what it is. And it's just taking ages. And our patients are waiting. The laboratory staff is waiting.
Yeah.
Right. And it was such a high stress situation. And eventually we found out what the issue was. It was on the power distribution board. And immediately he phoned, and he was the only, I think he was one of two technicians servicing the Western Cape. But like the other guy was off sick or something. And he phoned this company out to check out the stock, the warehouse, if they had the piece of equipment, the replacement board. And they had one, I don't know where this thing was, in Wellington, or I don't know where, but this guy drove there.
Sure.
And he came back and replaced it, and it was working. And I can imagine you faced, I mean, you're on obviously the other side of the equation here, where you are busy dealing with a technical team that is under severe pressure that they're not used to facing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, did your team need counseling afterwards? Did they have to sit down and have some?
No, I think we just motivated ourselves. Being a technician is a special person. It's not. I mean, everybody phones you every day moaning and complaining about something. Nobody phones you in the morning saying, "Phew, thanks, Louis, our monitors is all working." But wait till one of them breaks.
Of course.
And you go out and you go assess a problem. It's not like you open the monitor up and there's like a little red flag flashing. Yeah, I'm a problem. No.
Fix me.
Yeah, there's how many things you must look out and figure out what the problem is. We can't just go to builders or brides and just go buy a part and put it in a monitor. It all comes from overseas. So, yeah, it's a challenge. I think we're all strong personalities. We motivated each other.
No, that's brilliant.
It's not like you had a choice. It was something that had to be done.
I think also like, I don't know, there's something with engineers and technicians that they sort of get into a working zone. And
I think it comes down to the satisfaction when you finish it working.
Okay, of course.
Not happiness. don't know what the word is. Satisfaction. That everybody's, you like the center point, all the pressure's on you, you must make it work. And when you walk out there and it's working, just that feeling of you did it. I think that's the important part.
No, it's absolutely true, and I think sometimes we don't stop to realize or stop to think and reflect on, like, what this fixed, or what this machine is going to do for in the medical industry, the field. Like, your technical team's obviously busy working on ventilators or whatever it is. They fix it, and it sort of moves along. It gets installed, and it's saving lives.
Yeah,
which is a lovely thing to think about. And
No, it was a, I would say, an honor to be part of SSCM, with the saving of lives and what we did with COVID. It was, I won't say it's experience that I would want to go through again, but yeah, it was a good experience.
All right, so now we're going to stick on this topic of sort of servicing or fixing or whatever. Now, because of the lack of qualified personnel, because of the amount of stress the doctor or the hospitals are facing, were there any cases where they try to fix it themselves and sort of?
Look, a sister can fix anything.
Okay.
Yeah, no, with that tape, they can fix anything, they think. You'll always see equipment with tape wrapped around it. They couldn't find the adapter, or they couldn't find that, but they can fix it with tape.
And are there any, like, obviously in the short term, if this thing can work, and it's saving someone at that moment, fine. But in the long term, like, what happens to a piece of equipment that gets serviced by a non-specialist?
Yeah, that is still a big problem. Like with us, for instance, we're allowed to do PC board replacements, but we're not allowed to repair PC boards anymore. That is purely just because of FDA and the overseas or the companies trying to keep a control. They manufacture something up to a certain standard. They don't want somebody to go work on a board and it's not up to their standard. So we do get, let's call it, the smaller companies. I mean, everybody wants to make money, and if they can do it, they give it a go.
Yeah.
Legally, they're not covered. And if something happens and we see that it wasn't us that worked on it, I mean, you can see if somebody worked on a board, we're not going to take responsibility for that.
So, like, generally, like, what are the legal implications if a board is fixed by someone that isn't certified to fix it? What are possible implications of that?
In South Africa, it's still not such a big thing. It's not like there's a lawyer standing outside the theatre door waiting for the patient to come out. Whereas overseas, it's a lot more, especially in the US, they're a lot stricter on that if something goes wrong. But yeah, if you worked on a piece of equipment, you're liable for it. You were the last person that worked on it. You signed it off saying that, yes, you can be used on another human being. Yeah, and a lot of smaller companies, something goes wrong, they just disappear. There's no investigation, no follow through on the whole thing.
So with that, if the equipment fails, right, and obviously this company disappears, would the owner still lie on, for instance, SSCM for supplying the equipment?
No, because we weren't the last person to work on it.
Okay.
So they can't give us a certificate that we supplied them. So,
yes.
So we're not liable for it.
And would you guys have to do an investigation on it, or would it be as simple as, look, we didn't sign anything off, it's done?
Yeah, it's not always as easy. The hospital also wants to save money. But yeah, there will be investigation on what happened.
All right. No, I find it very, very interesting. You know, sometimes during your education, sort of the law and legal aspects surrounding your industry that you're going to go into, it's not really taught enough. And I guess it's you know, I think a lot of people learn on the job.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, huge mistakes can be made by doing things which they're actually not legally allowed to do. However, they, you know, they don't know about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. You see, with us, we bring equipment in. We get sales and technical training by the factory. Obviously, before lockdown, we always used to go up to Joburg. All the technicians, we've got branches in all the big cities. We will all go to Joburg, 20 of us, and we get trained on a specific piece of equipment. With lockdown, obviously, everything went Teams and Skype. And so, yeah, between everything, I would say we had the most training during lockdown, because it was just much easier for them to arrange training because everybody is at home or everybody is in the office. So, yeah, we did a lot of training. And that's a big thing. If you just bring equipment in and you can't really support it, it's a big thing supplying equipment, but looking after it also.
All right.
You need to look after it. You need to carry space for it. Yeah.
And that is actually that's a very important thing to realize. Often engineers, technicians, I don't know, but in my case, I didn't like the idea of being a maintenance engineer or maintenance technician, because it feels like you're not really, I don't know, for myself, I wanted to create new things or change the world or whatever.
Yeah.
But you don't realize how much of a product's life cycle is dependent on the support and the repairs and the maintenance. And it's such a huge part of the equation that we most people don't realize. And a lot of effort goes in place to creating those schedules of maintenance. And so for instance, like your ventilators, what would a product life cycle be of something like that, and how much maintenance would be required?
If you take a ventilator, it's a 6-monthly just a service check, and then an annual service on it, whereas you replace a lot of filters, check for calibration, calibrate what needs to be calibrated. And obviously the O2 cell is the most important part. So yeah, you need to open the unit. You need to see that everything is fine. It's not you walk in, dust it off, and you walk out and it's done. There is certain parameters that you need to do.
Interesting. So, I think we're sort of rounding down now.
Yeah.
Right. So, what do you have any contact details for SSEM? What's the website address? If someone wants to know more about SSEM and more about the industry, do you have any details?
Yeah, they can go to our website, www.ssematembu.co.za. They can email info@ssematembu.co.za. And all the details are there. There's a LinkedIn page that they can also go look at.
All right. Thank you so much, Louis.
Thank you very much for this new experience.
Yeah, it was great having a chat, and all the best in the future. And hopefully we'll meet again.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Cool.
Have a good day.
Thanks.
Just